Hi, welcome to Stories at Night. Today's episode is dedicated to all you young adults out there who love a good scare. So turn off your lights, grab a blanket, and get ready for a tale of horror that will send shivers down your spine. The old house stood silhouetted against the bruised twilight sky, a skeletal frame against the dying light. The locals called it Blackwood Manor, a name whispered with the mixture of fear and morbid fascination. It had been abandoned for decades, its silent sentinel guarding secrets best left undisturbed. Now, a group of friends, fooled by youthful bravado and a thirst for adventure, were about to learn the true meaning of fear within its decaying walls. Liam, the self-proclaimed leader, clutched a flashlight, its beam cutting through the oppressive darkness that clung to the air like a shroud. Beside him, Maya, the pragmatic one, checked her phone, its screen illuminating her worried face. Across from them, Noah, the skeptic, scoffed, while Chloe, the sensitive artist, shivered, her eyes wide with a premonition of dread. "Are you sure about this?" Maya asked, her voice barely a whisper. "This place gives me creeps." "Relax," Liam said, trying to sound confident, though his heart hammered against his ribs. "It's just an old house. We'll take some pictures, maybe find some cool artifacts, and be back before midnight." Noah snorted. "Yeah, and maybe we'll find a ghost wearing a sheet and rattling chains." Chloe didn't laugh. She had a feeling, a deep-seated unease, that prickled her skin. She'd always been sensitive to the unseen, the subtle energies that permeated the world, and this place was screaming. They pushed open the heavy oak door, its hinges groaning in protest, a sound that echoed through the silent house like a mournful cry. The air inside was thick with the scent of decay, damp wood, mildew, and something else. Something indefinable that sent a shiver down Chloe's spine. Dust motes danced in the light beams, illuminating a grand foyer, its once opulent furnishing now shrouded in cobwebs and neglect. "Wow," Noah breathed, finally impressed. "This place is something." They ventured deeper, their footsteps echoing on the cracked marble floor. The house was a labyrinth of rooms, each more dilapidated than the last, wallpaper peeled from the walls like decaying skin, revealing the skeletal structure beneath. Portraits of stern-faced ancestors stared down at them, their eyes seeming to follow their every move. As they explored, the atmosphere grew heavier, the silence more profound. The initial excitement began to fade, replaced by a growing sense of unease. Liam, despite his bravado, found himself constantly glancing over his shoulder. Maya, ever practical, kept checking her phone, the lack of signal adding to her anxiety. Noah, the skeptic, started to crack, his jokes becoming forced and his bravado brittle. Chloe, however, was the most affected. She felt the presence, a cold, watchful gaze that seemed to penetrate her very soul. She saw shadows moving in the periphery, heard whispers in the wind, felt the brush of unseen hands against her skin. They explored the library, its shelves lined with decaying books, their pages brittle and yellowed. They found a grand ballroom, its floorboards warped and cracked, where a ghostly waltz seemed to play on repeat in Chloe's mind. They even ventured into the master bedroom, where a four-poster bed stood draped in cobwebs, a chilling reminder of the lives that once lived within these walls. As the hours passed, the sun dipped below the horizon, plunging the house in complete darkness. The flashlight beams became the only source of light, casting long, dancing shadows that played tricks on their eyes. The temperature plummeted, and a bone-chilling wind seemed to whistle through the cracks in the walls. Then the first strange event occurred. It was Maya who noticed it first. She was taking pictures in the dining room when she realized that one of the chairs had moved. It was a heavy, ornate chair and had been pulled and positioned against the wall. Now it was several feet away, as if someone had pulled it out. "Did anyone—" she began. Her voice trailed off. They all looked at each other, their faces etched with confusion and growing fear. "Maybe the wind," Noah suggested, but even he didn't sound convinced. They dismissed it as a fluke, a trick of the light, a product of their overactive imaginations. But the incidents continued. Objects moved, the doors slammed shut, and whispers echoed through the empty halls. The atmosphere grew increasingly oppressive, and the sense of being watched intensified. Then Liam disappeared. They were exploring the basement in a damp, musty space filled with cobwebs and forgotten relics. Liam Saint had been leading the way, his flashlight beam cutting through the darkness, when suddenly he vanished. One moment he was there, the next he was gone. "Liam?" Maya called out, her voice trembling. "Liam, where are you?" Silence. Only the drip, drip, drip of water echoed through the basement. They searched frantically, calling his name, their voices laced with panic. They checked every corner, every shadow, every crevice, but Liam was nowhere to be found. Noah, his skepticism finally shattered, was now a quivering mess of fear. Maya, her practical mind struggling to comprehend the impossible, was on the verge of a breakdown. Chloe, her premonition confirmed, was paralyzed by terror. They decided to leave, to get out of the house, to escape the nightmare that had consumed them. But as they turned to leave the basement, they found the door had vanished. The stone wall was solid, unbroken. They were trapped. Panic erupted. "Ah!" They screamed. They pounded on the wall. They clawed at the door, but it was no use. They were trapped in the darkness, with no way out. Then the whisper started again, louder this time, more insistent. They seemed to be coming from everywhere, from the walls, from the shadows, from the very air they breathed. They were unintelligible at first, but gradually they began to coalesce into words, into single chilling phrase. "Get out!" The lights flickered, plunging them into complete darkness. They heard footsteps, slow and deliberate, echoing through the basement. They felt a cold presence, a touch that sent icy tendrils of fear through their veins. Then Noah disappeared. He was standing next to Chloe, his face contorted with terror, when he simply vanished. One moment he was there, the next he was gone, leaving behind only a lingering scent of fear and the echoing sound of his scream. Maya and Chloe were left alone, trapped in the darkness, surrounded by the unseen horrors of Blackwood Manor. They clung to each other, their bodies trembling, their hearts pounding in their chests. The whispers intensified. The footsteps grew closer. They felt the cold presence, the touch of unseen hands. They saw shadows moving, figures lurking in the darkness. Then, with a scream, Maya disappeared. Chloe was alone. She was the last one left, the sole witness to the horrors of Blackwood Manor. She knew she was next. She could feel the presence closing in, the cold touch, the whispers, the shadows. She closed her eyes. Bracing herself for the inevitable, she heard the footsteps, slow and deliberate, approaching her. She felt a cold touch on her shoulder. Then, silence. When she opened her eyes, she was standing in the grand foyer. The sun was shining through the windows, casting long shadows across the floor. The house was silent, empty. She was alone. She ran, stumbling over the cracked marble floor, desperate to escape. She burst through the front door and into the sunlight, gasping for breath. She never looked back. She told her story to the authorities, but they dismissed it as a hallucination, a product of her imagination. They searched the house, but found no trace of her friends. They declared them missing, presumed dead. Chloe never recovered. She was haunted by the memories of Blackwood Manor, by the whispers, the shadows, the cold touch, the screams of her friends. She saw the faces of her friends in her dreams, their eyes filled with terror. She knew the truth. She knew what happened to them. They were trapped, forever lost, within the walls of Blackwood Manor, victims of the house's dark secrets. And sometimes, on a moonless night, when the wind howls through the trees, you can hear the whispers, the echoes of the screams, carried on the wind, a chilling reminder of the horrors that lurked within the abandoned house, the house that still stood, waiting for its next victims. Thank you for joining us for this hair-raising journey. Stay tuned for more tales in the next episode of our podcast. And remember, when darkness falls, be careful who or what you invite into your home. Good night and pleasant nightmares.